Welcome back. All right, so I made this video. I was ready to post it, and then there was a change in one of the items I was going to talk about in this video. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the very bottom and mention that everybody on waivers today, after they've cleared tomorrow, do not be surprised when some of those players end up getting traded. The way this works is the GMs today are putting guys on waivers. They want to get maximum cap flexibility, right? So by waiving these players, it gives them cap flexibility. You can write off, I think this year, I think it's $1.135 million or $1.35 million worth of a player being sent down. So if it's a $3 million contract you send to the minors, then it's only a $1.65 million cap hit at the NHL level while they're in the AHL. So I'm pretty sure that's the number for this year. So by waiving these guys now, tomorrow they have more trade value once they've cleared waivers, because then I, as a general manager of, say, the Rangers, I may pick up a player from, let's say, Jansen Harkins from Winnipeg. I really like Harkins. So once he's cleared waivers, I can go to Winnipeg. I can maybe give him a late draft pick up Harkins. I can send him straight down to the AHL without having to waive him again. So that's the thing, right? A lot of these guys might have gotten traded, but GMs don't want to pick up a guy, waive him, and lose him for nothing. We've seen that in the past. But in recent years, it feels like GMs have learned their lesson, and so that doesn't happen. But look for like a Wayne Simmons in Toronto, for instance. He only makes $900,000. That's the cap hit. You send him to the minors, you have no worry about the cap at the NHL level. So it's possible Simmons, for instance, clears waivers and then gets picked up in a trade by another team who can then just assign him to their AHL affiliate and call him up as needed. He doesn't have to clear waivers again for 30 days. Now, getting into a couple of signings that have taken place since my last video. Aston-Reese signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs for their remaining cap space, $840,630. It is pretty precise for that reason. The Leafs maximizing their cap space and signing for what they have left. So basically it was Vesey, or not Vesey, I'll get to Vesey in a second, but basically it's Aston-Reese, what can you afford? And Dubas just empties out his pockets and goes, let's see, I got 840,630. There you go. And so that's what Aston-Reese gets. Vesey has been signed, spoiler alert, Vesey's been signed by the New York Rangers for $750,000 for this season. So Aston-Reese and Vesey, both players who were on professional tryouts, who have turned those into contracts. While most of the tryouts ended up being released as expected, some of them did get contracts. And so that's pretty exciting. There's been rumors too about whether or not Milano might end up in Vancouver. I've seen that, but I don't see it. I don't, because the Canucks have 3 scoring lines, and it looks like Besser might be ready to come back for the regular season's beginning. He was on the ice today, and Bruce Boudreau said he's hoping to get cleared and be ready to go. So yeah, if Besser's ready to play, and if Mikheyev's not going to be out for that long, and it looks like he won't be out for that long either, the Canucks should be able to roll 3 scoring lines, which you kind of have to have in today's NHL if you're going to have any chance of making the playoffs. So that's good news. Might be bad news for Höglander, who looked like he was going to have a more prominent role with the injuries. If those injured players come back, it could diminish Höglander's role until the next injury happens. It's the Canucks. There will be other injuries. Riley Stillman arrives for practice, and if you were thinking about the fight with Kyle Burroughs last year, he's cool with it. High fives Burroughs. And Chris Faber reports that, this is, and again, reporting that he said, well, now we're brothers and we were, against each other, but we're brothers now. Burroughs fought Stillman because Stillman threw a couple of hits on Höglander that clearly the Canucks didn't like, so Burroughs went out and did his job, which was to fight. Oddly enough, Stillman being in the lineups means Burroughs has less reason to fight. Stillman, I would think, would probably end up in the fight ahead of Burroughs. It's interesting, too, because they both play a very similar role with this team, right? So if that's your third pairing, that's a pretty tough pairing. But yeah, so all things are forgiven. And this is why when a trade happens and it's one guy going to a team where there's a player he might have fought with in the past, people make this big deal about, oh, those guys don't like each other. They're fine. They're teammates, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. There are instances where, yes, those players may not want to be on the same team. For instance, when Luongo went to Florida, and at the time, Tim Thomas was Florida property, and we're like, did Thomas and Luongo, can they actually coexist? And then it didn't matter because Thomas was gone almost immediately after that, which answered the question. No, not really. Washington news, Oshie and Orlov looks like they're going to be good to go for the season opener. That's good news. Washington, a team that, is talked about as being a little older, and maybe their best days are behind them kind of talk. Well, they're going to need all hands on deck, especially with Backstrom already being out until about halfway through the season. Having Oshie in the lineup, that definitely helps their top six, and Orlov helps their top four on the blue line. So they should be ready to play in the season opener, and that's good news. Now, saved for last, this is the item that there's been an update since I put this board together. So there are accusations about Ian Cole that are out there. And reporters, the mainstream reporters have started picking up on it and started talking about it because when reaching out to the NHL is aware of these accusations. Tampa Bay is aware of the accusations as well. And so they're investigating. Now, Ian Cole was involved in a scandal, but it was a gossipy scandal at the time last year, so I didn't report on it, where there was a relationship he apparently had with the rinkside reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes, who was engaged at the time. So that rumor came out. The engagement that reporter had was over. What bothered me at the time was that everybody seemed to pile on her and talk about her, whereas I thought in that situation both sides are culpable. And I felt like there wasn't nearly as much talk about Ian Cole as there was about her. So that bothered me a bit at the time. Because those kinds of things can get kind of messy. And I mean, I just felt like at the time it was gossip. Now, the reason I'm talking about it here is because the accusations now are that it's not news to say that hockey players like women, because they do, right? Majority of hockey players really are about the women. There are a few cases of hockey players that may not be, and hey, more power to them. But there's this, how do I put this? There's this atmosphere that Cole's accused of being part of, that like he would go to his teammates and boast about this. But this girl this accusation that's come out is from somebody who states that at the time they were underage. That they were underage, and that she wasn't the only underage girl that had a relationship with Ian Cole. And when I say relationship, it's very, very tenuous for me to say relationship. This is not really boyfriend, girlfriend, we're going to get married stuff either. This is not his MO, and he was boasting about his exploits and about his conquests, and that these boasts also went to his teammates. So for the NHL and for Tampa Bay, the work for them today is pretty simple. To talk to former teammates, try to find the person who owns that account. Try to reach out to the person who has that account to get any more information they can. The account had a lot of information in it without her naming herself, without her naming any of the other young women that were involved, or in this case, teenage girls that were involved. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. And of course, this is while we're dealing with the cloud of the Hockey Canada investigation, where, now Hockey Canada heads have started to roll a little bit there. So we'll see how far that goes. But it's just, it feels like that the timing of this, right at the start of the season, the NHL looking for, I was even going to put on the questions board this morning, can we go without any major scandals this year? And I thought, nah, that just seems really like a downer. And it would have been answered hours later, potentially, right? So if these accusations are proven to be accurate, what can the NHL rightfully do about something that was done potentially 5 or 6 years ago, right? And that's the real question then. For Tampa Bay, what can they do as a team? And then the question becomes one of, so if he was telling his teammates, and if his teammates knew that he was talking about girls that were in high school, and not at age 18 at this point, then that's where the question of, and I know people don't like to hear the words hockey culture, but it's there, right? And so that's something that needs to be looked at by the National Hockey League. And yeah, Ian Cole at this point is the one being singled out. And so we'll see what happens. He did not stay with Carolina. And again, we'll see. Because I know there will be a lot of, and again, this isn't about, because you'll always see, oh, it's guilty until proven innocent. No, it's just, this has come out. So when that accusation comes out, it makes perfect sense to investigate it and say, okay, is this accurate? Is this true? Did this happen? And so that's all the NHL and the team are doing right now is investigating, right? And so we'll see what the result of that investigation is and where it goes from here. Because if the accusation is accurate, they should not have much trouble finding other people who will corroborate the story. It would be easy enough to say, okay, so which team was he with? Which locale could this have been in? Which I can't believe I'm saying this. Which high school could, like, it just, I hate so much about this. But again, I feel like this is something that I have to report on today because it's out there. There's a lot of people talking about it. Mainstream reporters have picked up the story as well. And we're at a point too with hockey where I feel like people feel more empowered to come forward with accusations. Yes, there could be false accusations, but still, you've got to investigate this kind of thing when it's out there, right? But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. And I apologize for a heavy topic. I'm going to say that I will include in the description below the video, I will include a link to the tweet that got everything started, which again goes into detail. But yes, there's a trigger warning. I don't recommend it to anybody who's gone through anything like this. There's some pretty abusive stuff in there, so it's not pretty. But let me know your thoughts. Once again, as always, in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Hope everybody has a great day today. I do. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, of course, in Canada. In the U.S., your happy Thanksgiving is a ways down the road, and we'll be looking at NHL standings at that point in Thanksgiving and where everybody is, whether above or below the playoff line, and have that argument at that time. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.